hopefully all of you know what my job is, but a lot of the time when I go out into the community, I have to explain to people what my job is, and especially to my parents' friends, I have to explain what my job is. So when I explain it to them, I say, I organise volunteering projects for students. It involves the internal projects, the external projects, or the A-teams, or that kind of thing. But the two main parts of my job are to create a positive impact on the community and to create a positive experience for students. So everything I do has to kind of fall into one of those two categories, and if it's not fitting into one of those, then there's no point in doing it, because that's kind of the main aim of everything. So the first thing in my strategic plan, I brought the overall version in case anyone's more into spreadsheets and stuff like that. But the first section is volunteer development and how we can develop our volunteers. So that's a volunteer being developed. There you go. So anyone who's got a number 1 on the back of their paper? Yeah? Anyone with a number 1? Do you want to call out what yours says?
Training.
Framework.
Wait. Yeah. And?
Goals.
Okay. So, training. So the first thing is training for volunteers. So this year I've completely revamped the training programme for volunteers. That's for people within their project leader roles and within their hall rep roles. We're using online training, and we're also training our committee how to use appraisals and how they can appraise people within our section to make sure that they're achieving the goals that they should be achieving, and how we can continue to develop what we're doing. Framework? Framework. This is meant to be framework. It's a climbing frame. There we go. So framework is a really important part of what we do. So framework for supporting our volunteers. So people love to send me messages at midnight on a Friday asking me a question about action, but actually sometimes I'm not the best person to ask a question to. So the aim of creating the framework is so people know who to go to and who to ask those questions to, because chances are half the time I'm probably not the right person they should be asking, but that's not their fault. We just need to direct them to the right people. So next one, employability. So the other thing we need to be doing for volunteer development is also to be teaching them the skills that they're learning through action, so all those employability skills, because most volunteers just do it because they love volunteering. They don't think about the skills that they're learning. So this year I'm working alongside the Careers Service to run employability workshops, as well as other training as well, to help make sure that our volunteers are fully prepared for when they leave university, even though they're probably not thinking about it yet. Next one. Okay, so this one's really important. This is setting goals for our volunteers. It's really easy when I'm sat in the office to just go, oh yeah, remember to do that. It's about setting goals for the volunteers and for people within roles so they know exactly what they should be achieving and when, to make sure that we're going in the right direction, and that we are going to, at the end of the year, look back and say, oh, we did everything that we wanted to do. Okay, so that's one of my kind of main areas. And as you can see, most of that is relating to creating a positive experience for students, so they've got things that they can go back to, and when they leave university, things that they have with them. But also, in doing all of that, we're creating more of a positive impact through the projects that we do. So, goal number 2 is communication. So who has a number 2 on the back of their paper?
People.
Yeah, should we go people first? Okay. So this is like my biggest section. This is this massive one here. So I've kind of cut them down to make it a bit easier so you don't sit here for 10 minutes. People covers the college, it covers postgrads, it covers the town, it covers anyone with an action and things that we do. So looking specifically to the college, working with their careers service to improve the employability of college students, especially ones looking to put things on their UCAS applications, looking to run projects specifically for the college, so one project a term and a food drive annually, because the college isn't a hall, isn't the university, it has to be treated differently, and I think sometimes we forget that. Postgrads, so making sure that, again, we're looking at postgrads differently. Postgrads aren't an undergrad, they don't have the same kind of time, especially postgrad research students. So looking at specific projects for them and also ways that we can interact with them in the graduate house. That's really important. And then lastly, town students. So we don't know a lot about town students and how they interact with actions this year, using data to see how they're doing that, and also doing individual events specifically for town students, including the possibility of a food drive. So that's people. Next.
Societies, etc.
I've clearly written that just for myself. So this is departments, societies, and the AE. So cross-sectioning is a massive thing this year for exec, and through action there's so many ways that we can work with other sections. So departments, currently my vice chair, George there. He's been working with departments and going in and developing the opportunities, one that we offer for departments individually, but also the way that our projects interact with departments and the skills they can learn from those to translate into future career paths. We've also been along to training for societies, so allowing societies to go in and translate the skills and the talents that they have into projects as well. And also for some of our projects, bringing in AU members to run certain sessions. So at the moment we've got a school where we're looking to bring in AU members to go in and do activities with the school, as well as just teaching them a bit about what they do as an elite athlete. So that's all about training, and hopefully at the end of the year as well we'll have a committee member specifically devoted to that, because it's too big a job for one person at the moment. Next.
Continues.
You missed out Staney.
Oh, sorry.
So go, no, you've done yours now. Okay. This is continued communication. So that's making sure that throughout the year we're continuing to communicate, and knowing that you can't just sign up at the beginning of the year. We'll have a secondary sign-up process in January that we'll be advertising, as well as an insight evening at the end of the year for people who are thinking about becoming a project leader. So making sure that they still understand that process is an ongoing thing. Staney, do you want to go next?
Yeah, data.
Thank you. So I did psychology. It had a lot of statistics in it, so it's something that I'm quite interested in. So this year I'm looking to use the data that we have on volunteers to try and convert that into expressions of interest. So who came along to pick a project night? Why didn't they sign up to a project? Using both the statistics and surveys and things like that to look at that. And then hopefully being able to do something with that my successor can take forward next year, and hopefully make more volunteers come to action. Lastly?
Media.
So media is a massive section for action. Something that we haven't really done particularly well in the past. I really want to increase the number of videos that we're using, because everyone loves a video. They're more likely to look at it than something that you've just written, a piece of text. Completely revamping our website, because at the moment you can't do half the stuff on it. And also utilising the screens downstairs so that people understand all the amazing things that volunteers are doing, because at the moment I'm not sure that everyone knows about it. Okay, so the very last section is looking at the impact of my role on the community and on volunteers. So this is looking to achieve both parts of my role. So anyone with number threes? Who wants to go first?
You don't have any blue tack, though.
Oh, who's got the blue tack?
Pass it along, I forgot. Sorry.
Should we start from Michael then, because you've got the blue tack?
Whole wraps and atmosphere.
Okay, so thank you. So that one is looking at the whole rep atmosphere within Action. Has always been something that we're quite proud of. Everyone says Action is a family and that they make all their best friends there, but I don't think that's something that we really translate into other sections of Action. Project leaders don't feel the same way, hall reps do. And so that's something that we want to develop this year. We're hoping to introduce kind of termly meetings for the for the project leaders, as well as involving them in a lot more socials and things like that, so they feel part of a big Action family rather than just hall reps and project leaders as separate entities. Next.
Governance.
So the biggest thing for me this year is completely rethinking the way Action think about everything that they do. So whenever anyone asks me what is an Action project, I say the same thing over and over again. And when they say, oh, how do you know that? I say, oh, it's just because it's always been like that, and it shouldn't be like that, because one year someone could come in and decide that's not it anymore, and it'll just all blow up. So the idea is that me and my committee have been sitting down, and we're going to completely rewrite the Constitution. It's going to come to our AGM, then it's going to come to you guys, and hopefully it'll be passed with a disciplinary procedure within it. Also, what is an Action project? How do people apply to do Action projects? As well as committee roles and things like that, which is currently all it's made up of. So yeah.
Recognised.
So one of the big things for me is that I don't think people understand what Action do, to be honest. People locally, people nationally, people within the union, people don't understand some of the amazing work people do. One of the volunteers last year did almost 400 hours of volunteering in a year, and no one knows about that. So this year, my job is to take that recognition and push it forward. So making sure that we're applying for awards, making sure that we're going to the press and that things are being written about us. So at the moment, we're potentially being put into an article for The Independent and things like that. So seeking more things out for that and hopefully taking that forward so people understand how amazing we are. Next.
Discipline.
A big thing for Action is that because there's so many people involved, sometimes people fall under the radar, they don't do their job, and at the moment we don't have a procedure for dealing with that. So at the beginning of the year, my committee sat down, we wrote out a policy that we told all the project leaders about, everyone agreed on it, and now we're going to take it forward to put it into the Constitution. But it just means that there's an expectation there for people and they understand what they should be doing, and then we also have the ability to be able to get rid of them if we need to as well.
Strategic development.
So this is looking at how we find projects and what we do with projects. So how can I look to find more projects, because at the moment it takes up quite a lot of time. Can we work cross-sectionally with people? How can we develop the current projects that we have? And just looking at a way of kind of setting that so that every year someone doesn't have to come in and work it out themselves again. So yeah, strategic development. And lastly,
London.
so London is obviously a brand new thing for us. We have an LSU in London kind of base, but it's looking at how to make that work in London, because volunteering in London is absolutely nothing like volunteering in Loughborough, which is what I've learnt this term. So it's working out how we can make that work out a completely different practice for it, and make it kind of run independently, so whoever's working here doesn't have to be calling up and organising projects down there, because that's just not going to work for anyone. So looking to develop that practice. But yeah, that's my plan. Hopefully you can see exactly how it's making that positive impact in both ways. And if you think it's not, then these questions now are for you to tell me how I can make it work positively for everyone. But yeah, thanks.